All right, finally, we're ready to start up. If you would please bring up your guessing game that we worked on before, and I also have given you a copy. Please don't key the stuff in because it's not going to work. I gave you the code so you have the code, but you have to do things differently in here. So I'm giving you the corresponding code, but if you just key it in, it's not going to work because the stuff's not going to be linked up. All right, so I appreciate anybody who says, well, I just want to get ahead. I appreciate that. I really do. We're going to start this just a little bit different. And if you would do me a favor, if you are logged on to your non-Mac machine, all right, if you are logged on to the non-Mac machine, go into Google. I mean, you can do it from there too, but it's a pain in the butt. So just go into Google if you will. And once you go into Google, I want you to type in this. Swift Programming Language 2.1, the basics. I don't think the capitalization means diddly. Right? If you key all that stuff in, what you'll find is you should get a couple different things. This morning I was working on something else. I was having a problem with some of the code, and I'll explain it to you in just a bit. But I wanted to find out what a certain error meant. So I went into Google and I started to type in what does. Anybody have any clue whatsoever when you type in what does, what comes up first? What does green poop mean? I couldn't believe that. I thought, wow, that was very interesting to see that as the first thing that Google would show me. And that wasn't what I was looking for. All right. If you've done that, at least on mine when I did it first said learn basic swift-lynda.com. I don't care. But underneath that, it says the Swift programming language, Swift 2.1, the basics. If you take your mouse and click on that, that is the online manual for Swift programming 2.1. You may want to bookmark that. All right, because anytime you have a question, that's a really good resource to go to because it's basically everything. Now, what I did last year, and John can attest to this, is I printed it out and gave it to students. All right? But it was about, and Travis might still have his, it was about 400 or 500 pages. All right? So, when you look through it, and you go, well, it's not that big, it says the basics. But if you look on the left-hand side, everything that you can see on your screen right now, in the main area of your screen, the bigger area on the right, if you scroll all the way down, that's just the basics. Then after that, there's basic operators, strings and characters, collection types, control flow, etc. If you look down on the left-hand side, on the side here, there are probably about 20 different things that you can look up. So it is really voluminous. All right. Sometimes what I do when I'm going and creating stuff, all right, what I do is I literally have two machines. I have my machine that I'm just using for development, and I've got the other machine that I'm just using if I want to Google something or whatever. And I've got that thing open most of the time in there. All right. Now, if you remember from last time, I'm going to open this, and then I'm going to open this. Don't need that open. And I don't need that open. I'm just trying to give myself a little bit of room here so I can kind of show you what's going on. All right. So this was the interface that we built last time, if you remember that. This is the interface that we built. Now, the way that you typically do this is 4 buttons, for example. We started doing this before. But I might have a different routine for each one of these buttons that's in here. So I might have one routine for my make guess, one for my rules, one for my clear, one for my exit, and one for my new game. So typically what I end up doing is I create functions over there. But since I want to be able to connect this to this is called my storyboard file, but the whole thing together collectively is called Interface Builder. And it's usually, all right, abbreviated IB. And that's what all these IBs that you see right here, that's what they all are. They mean Interface Builder. They mean we're trying to make the connection. So what I'm telling you is typically what you end up doing is you go over here and you write an IB function. And you, I'm not going to scroll down, but you got the handout I gave you. All right? And so I might have one that's called make guess. So I might write an IB function called make guess. I put all my code in there. All right? Then I take my mouse, not mouse, I'm sorry, the cursor, and I put it here. I hold down on the control key, and I drag up onto my view controller. All right, we did this last time, so if you weren't here, it's just review. And then it came up, and it had a little box, a very small little modal dialog box, and one of the things that was under there was the name of the function that I wanted to connect to. Does that make sense? That's what we're going to do. All right. Now, the other thing, and like I said, I appreciate anybody who said, yeah, well, you know, I just started keying code in. Yeah, but if you key code in, you're going to have the same problem that we talked about before. So hopefully you understand this. This field right here, IB outlet week, var current guess. That's this one. All right. This field right here, status. That's this one. None guesses. That's this one. That should make sense to everybody just taking a quick look at it. All right? But if I, like I said, if I just type in this stuff, just like that, just type it in, boom, 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 boom. All right? The system will have no idea that the two are related to one another. So typically what you do is rather than you creating those variables, what you usually do is you take your mouse, or your cursor, I should say, sorry, take your cursor, put it inside of there, and this is what I want you to do right now. And while you're doing this, the same kind of way we did it with the buttons, hold down on your control key, and literally with that in here, holding down on the control key, drag over to here. So hold down on the control key and drag over to there. And if a little box comes up, you did it right. So I'll show you, even though I've already got it there, I want to show you what I mean. So if you're confused, take a look up on the screen here. I'm clicking in here. All right, I'm holding down on my control key, holding down on the mouse pad, and dragging over there and then letting go. If it comes up and it looks like this, you did it right.
What file is that you have open that you're dragging into?
What file is that? That's the viewcontroller.swift file.
Okay.
That's where you're going to end up putting the typically just about all of your code. Now, is there anybody who tried to do that and it didn't work? All right, if it did work and you dragged it over and you got the box, just leave it there for a second because I want us to be on the same page, so to speak, right here.
Could you tell me again? Hold control key.
Take your mouse, click inside of here so that that's active.
Okay.
All right, so click inside of there. Hold down on the key that says Control on your keyboard. 3 away from your space bar. So hold down on that key. Hold down on the mouse pad and drag while you're holding down on both of them. Drag and make sure you're inside of where it says Class View Controller, UI View Controller. If it looks like this, you did it right. This has to become for you such a fundamental operation. You know, and I realize if you've never done it or if you've only done it once or twice, I understand there'd be a little bit problematic. But it has to become unbelievably fundamental to you. That's how often you use it. That's why I'm saying it. All right? And what I'm saying is if you say, well, I'm just having problems with it. Yeah, because you're just starting to do it. But what I'm telling you is this is something that you do literally all the time. In every program that you do here. The only way that you won't do this is it is possible in here. I never even showed you this, but it is possible in here. Remember when we started up and you saw that screen and it said, it said iOS stuff, and it had single view app and game and a bunch of other stuff. You remember what I'm talking? Know what I'm talking about? And I said that's the one we're going to use all the time. So you had an initial screen that looked like this. It said here iOS, and then down here it said OS X. And you had a bunch of stuff up here. You had a bunch of stuff up here where it said one of the things, the ones that we chose was single view, and it had a bunch of other stuff. All right. If we were to choose this, we're not going to, but if we did, one of the things that's underneath this says command line app. That's the only time you would have nothing GUI on your screen. So if I wanted to write something that was just text, I'd go down to there and choose that. I'm never going to want to do that. I don't think you'd have a very good or easy time selling an app that had no pictures on it, was just text. All right. I really don't think that would sell. I'm not saying it wouldn't. I said I don't think that it would sell. All right. So as far as we're concerned, that's not even here. We're always going to be choosing from the iOS and the single view. All right. Now, let's take a look at the stuff that's in here. You'll notice right now that the connection says outlet, and if I click the down arrow, you don't have to do this. All right, it says outlet, and then we've got their action, and we've got their outlet action. All right. For what we're doing right now, when you create a variable, which is what we're about to do, it's always going to be outlet. All right. There is some smart or IntelliSense or whatever you want to call it built into this. There is some of that. The system says, oh, you probably want to make that an outlet. And we do. Okay? So you don't have to worry about, I just clicked it to show you the things that were in there. Okay? Then you notice the next thing says Object View Controller, because everything has to link up to the view controller. So the system's letting you know that's what you're going to be linking it to. Then notice that what's in here next is it says name. And after name, it's empty. That's where the cursor's sitting. In there, you can type current guess, like I've got it. Don't hit enter when you're done. Just type in current guess. All right? And please use the caseness that I'm using, because these are case-sensitive variables. But don't hit enter. All right? So I'm not going to type anything in because I already have the variable. All right? So I'm going to click cancel in just a minute. Then look underneath it. Notice that all I did was I clicked the down arrow. You don't have to do this. But the only thing it tells me in there is UI text field, because that's what that is. You understand? It's just letting me know the type of field that I'm currently working with. That's what it's letting me know. All right? And then finally, they've got storage down here. This is the one that's probably the hardest for most people to understand. Well, if it says weak, as you'd probably guess, the only other thing that you could choose is strong. All right? We're going to virtually always choose weak. What weak means is I don't exactly know what I'm doing, so I'm going to let the system figure out how to manage this memory for me. But if I choose strong, then I'm going to do it myself. All right? We're going to let the system do it because it won't screw it up. So again, yours should say outlet, view controller, current guess, with that kind of capitalization, UI text field, and weak. If it says all that stuff, you can click the connect button. And once you click that button, you should now have over on your code side, all right, on your code side, you should now have this. IV outlet, weak var, current guess, colon, UI text field. And if that's what happened, it worked. So click the connect button.
No, seriously, I can't even click.
And then it said outlet and action.
No, I said, make sure it just says outlet. All right, so just click off of that. All right. You put in current guest. You've got UI text field.
Yes.
All right, when you did this, go ahead and cancel. All right, I want to see you do it again. So click on guest again. All right, it's highlighted. Hold down on your control key. Keep holding, push down on it. Hold down on it. Hold down on this. Drag. Drag it over so it's in between. It's got to be in between those curly braces. Now let go. Now type in current guess. Now click the connect button or hit enter. And it should, well, I don't know what you did because there was a connect button there and then now it's gone. Let's try it one more time. So go ahead and cancel out of there. You should be able to do it yourself now. Start typing in current guess. Don't hit anything. No.
Oh,
Did you click the connect button?
No.
No. Click the connect button. Don't do that.
Oh.
Cancel it again. Cancel it again. And you're gonna do it right this time. All right, so go ahead and just go out and walk through all the steps. All right, so put current guess in there. Don't hit enter when you're done. Go and take your mouse, put it on the connect button and click. There you go. All right. Now, after you've done that, I take for granted now that everybody's got that done. So I'm going to cancel because I've already done it. Now go over here to this label right here that mine says status on it. Yours may or may not say anything on it. Do the same thing. Hold down on the control key, hold down on your mouse, your touchpad, drag over and drag right underneath the one you just put in. So again, control, drag over, and put it right underneath the one that you just added, and let go. And it's going to look similar, but not identical. All right? Outlet again, view controller again. The name here will now be status. So type in status for the name. Make sure it says UI label. Make sure it says week. Then click the connect button, and that'll put in your second variable. All right? So remember, hold down on the control key. Make sure this is highlighted. Hold down on the control key. Hold down on your touchpad. While you're holding down on both, drag right over to here, and that should bring this up. All right? So you put in there status, and as you start typing, this thing that's grayed out where it says connect should ungray. All right? And once you put it all in, click the connect button. That should add then this. IV outlet, weak var status, UI label. We're going to talk about those exclamation points in just a minute. Okay? Anybody want to guess which one we're going to do next? We've got one more here, right? Right there. So again, now highlight this one. Hold down on the control key. Hold down on your touchpad. And drag over to here. And that's num guesses. So when you get all done, you should have these three things that are right here. Does that make sense? Again, this is what's referred to as a model view controller architecture. And, you know, I know he meant it, yet I know he's not vindictive, but Luke, all I can tell you is there's a real good chance if you had learned on an Apple first, you think this is unbelievably easy and Intel's a piece of garbage. And I will tell you that because I know people who have done that. They go over to Visual Studio, they can't comprehend all the stuff that Visual Studio puts in for you. It's like, because I've had people say it, you must be a frickin' moron to have to use this IDE. All right? So it's all a matter of what you learn first, and it's all a matter of comfort zone. These would be easier if we had mice on here. Probably it would be easier to work with. So feel free when you're doing your course evaluations at the end of the semester, write down, buy some freaking mice for the Macs. Go ahead and do that. Then I can ask. All right? Because when I ask right now, they're like, no. But again, my boss did read your comments. Okay? Because she got back to me on the comments. All right. Has everybody been able to add all three of the variables? Those, what we're doing again, is we are using a model view controller architecture. All right? This is our model. What we're modeling really is a guessing game. Everything. That's what we're modeling. This is our view. This is what it physically looks like. This is the controller. All right? So basically, we're hooking this stuff up together. And it's funny because I've mentioned this term, and I've said it before, model view controller, MVC, or model view controller. And I have people tell me, we've never done anything like that before. And my initial response is BS. From day one, you've been using a model view controller in this program. You have been. What do I mean? I've been telling you to put your CSS in its own file. Okay? I've been telling you to put your HTML in its own file. I've been telling you to put your JavaScript in its own file. And I said when you do that, you're writing unobtrusive code. We talked about this before. All right? So, in many ways, that's your view. The CSS is the view. It's how you make stuff look. I mean, if we were playing with this with CSS, we might change the colors, we might round the buttons, we might do a bunch of stuff like that. All right? What we're modeling, basically, is inside of the HTML. And it's also known as, basically, it's our content. All right? But our controller has been JavaScript. That's where we put our logic. And we're doing the same thing right now. But the software itself is stupid. And what I mean is, it doesn't know that what's here is connected to what's here unless you physically make a connection. That's what we're getting to. And again, to kind of go back again to Luke's point, I'm not saying, do you like this? Because with what we're working with, this is the way you have to do it. After a while, it becomes almost second nature. Literally, that by the middle of the next semester or whenever, if I say, okay, we're going to do this project in class today, here's a picture of the interface. You'll have it built, and you'll have your connections made to it in about 5 minutes. All right? That's just how it works. Now, you don't have to do this. I put comments here that just said current guess, UI text field, status label, and it holds too high, ... and number of guesses label. All that stuff that's green there that goes on to the next line, I don't have any more room, so it really goes over here. Okay? I think that makes sense to everybody. If for some reason it doesn't, what I'm saying is, if I move this over, I'll cancel this. If I move this over further, come on. You can see how it's on the same line. Okay? That's all I'm trying to tell you. All right. Now, if we look at what's next, and I added a couple things that are not on the handout I gave you. So if these freak you out, oh, you didn't give us those, then don't put them in there. All right? That's fine. And just don't put them in. All right? Because I already broke some Swift rules when I did that. Now, you may or may not remember, does anybody remember, in Swift, what's the difference between using var and using let? The answer is right there.
That's constant let.
Let's a constant. Var is a variable. Well, as we're running the program, this is going to be the random number that we generate. This is going to be the guess that we make. This is going to be the number of guesses. I think everybody would agree that as you're playing the game, unless you're really good and you can guess the magic number the first time every time, I don't know how you do that, but either you're incredibly lucky or whatever. Or you print it out whenever you create it. All right, that makes it easy too. But these things are going to vary. I think everybody would agree with that. So when I did that, with all of these, except the first one, I use that indirect referencing. So notice with what we've got here where it says var the guess equals 0, var number of guesses equals 0. The system assumes those are integers, just regular, vanilla, generic ints, because it sees the 0 that's there. Okay, does that make sense? The function that we're going to use to create a random number, it's called arc4 random number, and it's down at the bottom. It's probably in the back page or in the last page of what I handed out to you. And there's even a URL that we'll look at after the break. But the point is that one expects that it's not an integer, but a 32-bit integer. Okay? That's why that says UI32, because if I left it off, the function didn't work. Okay? Does that make sense to everyone? So I actually had to put a data type in there so that the function down below would work. Okay? So feel free, if you would please, key in these three variables that you see right there. The var number, the colon, UI int 32 equals 0, the var the guess equals 0, and the var number of guesses equals 0. So please put in those three variables. Those you can manually type in. What we're going to probably end up doing in the spring semester, just so you know, for like around the first 9 weeks, and I'm sure this will vary, but basically what we're going to do is I'm going to lecture on Tuesdays, right from the book. Okay? Thursdays, we're going to build an app. We're going to try to build a simple app as a class every Thursday. Does that make sense? Now, it might be that after 3 or 4 or 5 or whatever of those, it's like, this is pretty simple stuff. Fine. Then then what we'll do is one of those periods when you come in, we'll build one, and I'll ask you to do it. And I'll give you an hour to work on it, or an hour and a half, and then I'll show you what I did. Does all that make sense? All right? And everything that we do in a class like that, you're going to be responsible for doing, creating, having it work, eventually moving it over to your H drive. And please remember this, I still, it's not you guys so much, but the first year students, I had one guy tell me, you haven't graded my stuff. Where is it? It's on my virtual desktop. Well, then it's never going to be graded. Why is that? Because I can't get to your virtual desktop. And I asked him, I said, can I get to this desktop, your regular one? No. So how can I get to your virtual one? Well, I thought you could get to everything. No. John can. He's got those magic powers. I just don't. The other two things that are in here, I left them off of yours, but I remembered that when you're going to check the guess, I never checked for an out-of-range guess. An out-of-range guess would be a guess. We're supposed to generate a number between 1 and 100, right? So an out-of-range guess would be 0 or below, or 101 or above. Does that make sense? All right. We didn't have to actually put in constants, and again, it's recommended by Swift that you don't make your constants in uppercase. So why did I do it? Because I'm a rebel, yeah, that's right. That was the reason I did it. Just so it stood out, right? So you knew, because you're used to working with constants from other programming languages. All I'm telling you is if you're going to go out and actually write application code or try to get a job where you're doing this stuff, because that's, Luke and Travis are going to open up their own Apple business when they graduate, all right? And then when they, and they'll clear your tree, your yard of shrubbery if you want. So, I mean, what won't they be able to do?
There's a long list.
All right, so all that stuff, again, should have been under the class view controller and before you wrote override func viewdidload. Does it make sense to everyone that everything that we have declared up here is now available down throughout the entire program so we don't have to pass it back and forth? I'm not concerned right now with passing variables. I don't mind everything being global. This is not a very big program, so we don't really care. All right? we can still come in here and create inside of any one of these routines. We can still come in and create our own local variables in there if we want to, and you'll see examples of that as we go down. All right, but for now, that'll be fine. Does anyone have any questions, anything, on the stuff that's right here? Any questions? Yes.
Yeah, with the var number, the UI or UIN32,
Yes.
that's our random number, right?
That's going to be the random number.
Okay, do you have to initialize it as an int before we do the...
No, what it was though, I could have said var number equals 0, but then it becomes a regular int. And the function we're going to use at the bottom, that arg4 random, wants an int 32.
Oh, okay.
That's why I had to give it a type.
Okay.
All right. If all I was going to do was, let's say I was going to create 3 variables, x, y, and z, and I wanted to add x and y and put them in z, then I can make them all just var x equals 0, var y equals 0, var z equals 0. I could do that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
All right, any other questions on the stuff that's up there? Because I'm going to move down a little bit, go for a couple more minutes, then we'll take a well-needed break for all of us. Whoops. So I'm now to the viewdidload. Now, what I'm trying to do in here is I'm trying to draw parallels in here between this class and stuff you already know. Does that make sense to people? So what I'm saying is some of the stuff I tell you, if we had somebody from Apple here, like for example, what I'm about to say, they might grab a piece of paper and hit me over the head with it, or a book or whatever. Because I'm trying to draw an analogy for you, all right? And the analogy is this. In many ways, viewdidload is kind of like your constructor in a Java program. In a Java program, you use the constructor to initialize any variables that you want to have initialized. So really, I could have declared those variables up on the top and then initialized them in here. We could have done that. All right? And there would have been nothing wrong with doing it. But notice what I did. I put this comment in here. You don't have to put the comments in. You've got the comments if you want to add them later. And if you don't care, bless you, that's fine too. All right? But what I'm doing in here is, right there, what I'm doing is the equivalent of when I start the game, when the app starts, it's like I click that button. Does that make sense to everybody? All right. And I'll tell you what, it's a real pain in the ass to do it in Android. I know 3 ways of doing it, but all 3 ways are very confusing. Okay? I've already got this working in Android. This is still a work in progress here. We're not going to get it done today. Hopefully we'll have it done by Tuesday of next week. All right, so all I'm doing in here is I'm saying generate the random number. All right? So what generate the random number does first, that routine, and you've got the routine there. I don't know what page it's on. It clears the GUI. And when I say it clears the GUI, it sets that equal to a blank or to 0, that, and that. It blanks all those out. Plus we're going to have a counter in here that's called what? Up above, number of guesses. We're going to set that to 0, and we're going to set the current guess equal to 0. Now, they'll just blank out everything. All right? Then we'll generate the random number. We'll go over that after the break. That's not really that big of a thing. But again, we wanted to make sure that, boom, as we start up the program, rather than us having to click that button right there, it's like the button was clicked for us. Okay? All right, it's 8:50. Let's take a break. We'll pick it up after the break, okay? We'll pick it up right here on the did receive memory warning. We'll continue on from there.
Strings converted hits with the exclamation telling it to crash and all that jazz.
Oh, well, yeah, that's right. We got to go over that after the break. Thank you. As I said we would, and we will. I'll tell you, this is not good. This has usually got like a digital showing of, and I don't want to do that again. But it's not, right now it looks like it's not even saving anything.
Did it record?
I checked it first, and it said that it was recording. According to that, I've got this, and let's see what size that is. 15K is not a good size for a CAM project file. No, I've tried it twice now. So, in other words, I came back in here, I did a file. You know, there's no save as, so it was saved. But when I go over here and I try to grab that file, all right, there it is there too. I saved it in 2 places. So if I go to that file, go back to here, go to share, and its export is supposed to be highlighted, and it's not, which is not a good thing.
Did you ever restart it after you did your test?
After I did what? I'm sorry.
Test?
What
You
test?
always do the test first and then
Yes.
Can you open it in there and then?